To order, I'll ask that you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Spencer, will you call the roll?
Peasant. Here. Gudenkauf. Here. Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky. Here. York.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Morley.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
All right, very good. We have a quorum. I've been asked to mention that we would be recognizing later in the program David Dyer, whose father passed away, and also community leader John Jevitz's father passed away, so we will observe a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, which is a proclamation for Autism Awareness Month, and former Mayor Pete DeCiani is here, and Mayor, if you will join me over at the podium for the proclamation, please. Well, for anyone who's been around Elmhurst, you probably know there are a few people, if anyone, that could say they've done more for autism than Mayor DeCiani, and so we're happy to give you this proclamation, and if you don't mind, I'll read it. Whereas autism is a complex neurological disease and developmental disability that robs children of social skills, the ability to talk, interact, and do the normal things that are often taken for granted, transcending all social, cultural, and geographic boundaries. And whereas autism affects 1 in every 50 children born today and affects boys nearly 4 times the level of girls, it has been diagnosed at a higher rate than pediatric AIDS, juvenile diabetes, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and all pediatric cancers combined, and is considered to be our country's #1 medical condition, afflicting children today and becoming the fastest growing global public health crisis. And whereas autism is treatable through early diagnosis, early intervention, including critical intensive medically necessary therapies such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, ABA therapy, RDI floor time, and other behavior therapies combined with medical interventions have proven to be extremely effective after unlocking the world of autism to enable these beautiful children the ability to communicate and interact with the ultimate goal of an independent and fulfilling productive life. And whereas the month of April is World Autism Month, and the global autism community will celebrate the 5th annual United Nations-sanctioned World Autism Awareness Month, and has launched an international campaign against Light It Up Blue, called Light It Up Blue. Now, therefore, I, Scott M. Levin, Acting Mayor of the City of Elmhurst, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2013 as Autism Awareness Month in the City of Elmhurst to promote awareness and early detection of autism, and ask our residents to recognize April as World Autism Awareness Month. Signed, Scott Levin. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mayor Levin and all the mayors throughout DuPage County that are proclaiming April as Autism Awareness Month. Now that I'm at DuPage County, and one of our biggest missions is public health, I was just brought to my attention. I knew we had big numbers, but we have over 3,500 children in DuPage County that are confirmed diagnosed in school right now with autism, nearly 200 right here in the city of Elmhurst. They're saying that there's possibly another 40 to 50 that haven't even been diagnosed yet, but the school district feels that they have a good tendency to possibly have the diagnosis. So I would encourage all parents, as a parent and a father, get your child diagnosed early so that you can nip this, because it is definitely treatable. We have living proof with our daughter, who's fully verbal and 3rd grader at Lincoln School. that autism can be beat if it's treated properly. And now we've got insurance passed here in Illinois, and we've got some great resources, a lot of providers here in DuPage County. So we're going to be launching some autism initiatives at the county as well. I'll be spearheading those myself. We're going to be launching a website in the near future, which will have all of the providers that provide diagnosis and services to people with autism, as well as other programming. So stay tuned to DuPage County. We're going to be doing some great things out there, and I appreciate everybody's support for this. Alderman Pezza, congratulations on your retirement. So wish you the best too. And I also want to thank Mayor Levin, who took the handoff and did a great job. So God bless Scott Levin. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, item 4 on the agenda, receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. If anyone has such a communication, please rise and deliver it to Clerk Spencer on my right. There being none, we'll move on to the public forum portion of the program. Clerk Spencer, has anyone signed in to speak at public forum this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We'll start with Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys. Read an interesting article in the Elmhurst Independent. Council is worried about other taxing bodies having enough money. Not too much about the residents having enough money to pay the taxes. Well, you were elected to represent the people. Not worried about other taxing bodies. And on the agenda tonight, we got our supermarket. Yes, indeedy. They're going to get a liquor license. I don't know how they're going to sell it. They're going to serve it. The only thing you guys failed to do was give them the right to distill it. But when asked if they're going to put stormwater retention under the parking lot, there isn't a word out of anybody here, not even my own alderman. Terrific, isn't it? And yeah, we're going to have another increase in sewage fees. I understand the price of water is going up, and I understand you guys got to get velvet gloves down there to handle it. But in the last year and a half or so, it just keeps on going up and going up. What I don't understand is your billing for the ordinance is based on 1,000 gallons, but you sell water by the cubic meter, and you charge sewage treatment by the cubic meter, and I don't understand why you guys are dealing with 1,000 gallons. On top of it, I still want to know why the school is paying $1 more per cubic meter. If they're paying $1 more for cubic meter of water, than the residents, then they're paying more for sewage. And that means I'm paying. Then we got a little problem with Paulie. Another little ordinance. You guys been dealing with an ordinance of dealing with them. Now the ordinance says you want to use eminent domain. Don't. You guys do a very poor job of it. And I wind up paying for the legal fees of the owner. I got to pay the legal fees of the guys we hired. And then on top of it, the judge tells me I got to pay for the land. So stay away from eminent domain. This town is no good at it. It really isn't. And Paula, you were one of the few of this council that majority of the time made sense. I wish you all the luck in the world, whatever you're going to do. But I will miss the commentaries you made. They try to bring some sense to this legislative body.
Next, we have David Pezza, 225 Cottage Hill. I think that's right. Close enough. Or 275 Cottage Hill.
Still living together?
My name's David Pezza. I live at 275 Cottage Hill. The poet Virgil is quoted as saying, "From a single crime, know the nation." The Attorney General's office found the city of Elmhurst guilty of breaking the Illinois Open Meetings Act. The secret meeting was designed to undermine the democratic process, which is why the Illinois legislature made secret meetings illegal, except in limited circumstances. The victims in this case were the taxpayers of Elmhurst and democracy itself. Through her efforts, my wife, Alderman Paula Pezza, who is completing her term today, made great headway throughout the state of Illinois by letting public bodies know that private discussions end at price when selling public property. That was quite an achievement. Notwithstanding the statewide impact, the Elmhurst Independent could only find and report to all of us that the AG's opinion was advisory and that no single alderman was named as being guilty. Let us miss the issue and protect the perpetrators. What a sad state of affairs. However, no crime goes unpunished. And what was the need for such secrecy? Taking public money and the right to preserve our property and property values and ceding them to a project with significant private benefit, or just plain and simple, a taking of our property. Paula has fought for all of us against that and stood up for us, even though it was not easy to do so. And what do we have on tonight's agenda for my wife's last meeting as an alderman? A request for authorization to take someone else's property again for the benefit of yet-to-be-named private developers. I can bet you know what her vote will be. It wasn't enough to use public funds to fight with property owners in the same neighborhood to end up with parking where parking once was. The taxpayers now need to worry about being dragged through the most expensive and time-consuming way to acquire property without Paula's voice saying enough. She will be missed here. I spent the weekend in the nation's capitals with our son David and Chris this weekend, staying near DuPont Circle. I can recall when Georgetown was up in arms about Starbucks coming to their eclectic neighborhood. At the same time in the early 90s, DuPont Circle was the center of change. This weekend, I found that DuPont Circle to be the center of conformity. I counted a few Starbucks, along with Chipotle, Subway, Panera, Jamba Juice, and CVS. It felt like downtown anywhere. I mention this because we like the small-town feel of this community and its local businesses and do not want to be a cookie-cutter town. Yet our rights are continually being challenged and stepped on by a few behind closed doors. Elmhurst has so much more to offer, and Paula got that. She spoke out against cookie-cutter homes and brought a change in design. She saw north end of town needing attention, proposed a TIF, and brought new development, sales taxes, and jobs. Finally, in the last 4 years, if you enjoyed that new sidewalk, safe railroad crossing, trimmed tree, the ability to have someone stand up for your rights, be it against the builder encroaching on your property next door, the absentee owner or landlord next door, or the ever-increasing cost of government and governmental secrecy, or if you needed someone with a helping hand and voice to move forward against all of life's red tape, it was nice to have Paula pulling for us. She will be missed as alderman. Not bad for a homecoming queen of an old quarterback. Thank you, Paula. We love you.
Okay.
Does someone want to follow that?
Maddie Pezza, 275 Cottage Hill.
I'm Maddie Pezza. I live at 275 Cottage Hill. Mom, while we were growing up, you gave of yourself every day to make sure we had everything we could ever desire. Now that we are all grown, you give of yourself every day to make sure our community remains a safe and beautiful place to live. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you thank you. I've looked up to you every day of my life, and I've always admired your strong spirit and your ability to stand up for what you believe. I can't thank you enough for always being there for me. I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much, and I can't wait to hang out with you next Monday night.
And last we have David Pezza, 275 Cottage Hill.
Always do the right thing. Don't be a follower, be a leader. You can accomplish whatever you set your mind to with hard work. One person can make a difference. Stand up for your convictions. These are maxims which I'm sure everyone heard from their parents at some point, but I consider myself very fortunate to have parents who not only said these things, but live them. I am inspired every day by the hard work and dedication they put into everything they do. Mom, I am so proud of you for being elected alderman. Holding public office is the greatest fulfillment of the American dream and a major personal achievement. I am even more proud, though, of the amount of time, work, and passion you dedicated to this assignment. I would like to share with the people of Elmhurst that I've never seen anyone work for anything with such dedication as my mother has over the past 4 years. It seemed that every time we spoke, she was reading, researching, writing, working on resident requests, volunteering, or just giving an ear to someone from the ward who needed to talk. She worked every day to become an expert on every issue, learning laws and statutes, doing in-depth research on utilities, and poring over spreadsheets. She never just took the easy way out. I am truly impressed and hope that we can all be so passionate about our vocations. Mom, you've shown us that standing by what is right and never compromising our convictions might be hard work, but it is the right and only choice, especially for an elected official. You weathered countless hours of research and soul-searching, attempted smear campaigns by the town penny saver, and even unbecoming attacks. Never to be deterred, you stood by what was right, and more importantly, always kept the interests of your constituents the number one priority. Elmhurst is a better place because of you. From your hard work to preserve the character and history of our town, to saving the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, to handling day-to-day quality of life issues, your influence can be seen everywhere as we drive down the streets. I hope that your most lasting legacy will also be the one on which you worked the hardest, moving city business out of the back room and into the public forum. We as citizens need to do our part to keep this legacy alive by keeping our government to task and always staying informed and involved, like my mother. Yes, America needs more Paula Pezzas, people who are willing to do the job because they care, people with ethics and convictions, people who really care about their neighbors, take the time to give a hoot just because they love this country. Mom, I love you with all my heart and am inspired by you every day. Congratulations on 4 years of achievements. I have a feeling this isn't going to be retirement, so I look forward to see what you have stored for us next.
Well, that concludes public forum as for who signed in tonight.
Thank you all. Item 6 on the agenda, announcements. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. On Saturday, May 11th at 2 p.m., there's going to be an elected officials bike ride sponsored by the Elmhurst Bicycle Task Force. We're hoping that congressional members Quigley and Duckworth will be joining us for that ride in the afternoon. So it'll be about a 10-mile ride at a leisurely pace to show the good and the bad of biking around Elmhurst, and you'll be getting your invitations via email. Thank you.
Clerk Spencer.
Well, early voting. I'm not going to announce that you can early vote, but I do want to announce that it was very successful, and I'm told that we had like 1,050 ballots that were cast during early voting period, so very good, and I'm glad it was brought back to Elmhurst. And I just have a couple of more things. There's a recycling extravaganza at Elmhurst College on Saturday, April 20th. It includes electronics, books, clothing, bikes, and more. And that's going to be on Alexander Street at their parking lot from 9 to noon. So that's April 20th. And on April 27th, the police is sponsoring the Prescription Take Back Day, and that's going to be in their parking lot between the hours of 10 and 2. And Senior Chore Days, sponsored by the city and DuPage Senior Citizens Council, will be held the first 3 weekends in May. So if anyone needs some help that's a senior or anyone wants to volunteer, just call 630-620-0804, and that's DuPage Senior Citizens Commission. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Clerk. Any other announcements? Being none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 7, are there any items which any alderman desires to remove from the consent agenda? Alderman Polumsky?
Item K, please.
Item K. Alderman Morley.
Items R and S.
R and S. Any other items to be removed? Alderman Braham.
Item Q.
Item Q. Anything else? All right, I'd like to have a motion to pass the consent agenda less items K, Q, R, and S. Alderman Braham with a second by Alderman Pezza. Spencer?
Graham.
Aye.
Pezza. Aye. Gutenkopf. Aye. Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Volumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The consent agenda passes. We'll move to item K. Clerk Spencer, if you'll read the recommendation, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council approves the request for a 4-way stop sign at the intersection of Emroy Avenue and Lake Street Frontage Road and authorizes the City Attorney to prepare the necessary documents for the City Council approval. Respectfully submitted, Public Affairs and Safety Committee, signed by Patrick Wagner, Chairman, Paula Pezza, Vice Chairman, and Michael Braham.
Can I have a motion to put it on the floor? Alderman Wagner, second by Alderman Pezza. Alderman Plumsky, would you like the floor?
Thank you. In the 2 years that I've been serving, the safety concern that I've heard the most about has been speed and control of traffic on Emroy, north of North Avenue, particularly near Lake Frontage Road. Only a small portion of Emroy has sidewalks, and pedestrians, including children, walk along this route either to school or to bus stops. I'm really glad we've had the opportunity to take a look at this a couple of times, and that staff has carefully looked at all angles, all scenarios, and that traffic consultant Brent Coulter has been able to study it carefully. And I just want to thank staff and Mr. Coulter for their analysis and for the committee, and hopefully everybody tonight voting for this. I think there are going to be a lot of families happy to see an additional device that will help control the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? All right, there being none, Clerk Spencer, if you'll call the roll on item K.
Wagner.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gutenkopf. Aye. Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Braham.
Aye.
Volumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, and item K passes. Item Q, Clerk Spencer, if you'd read the...
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare an appropriate resolution to approve the assigned vehicle use policy. Respectfully submitted, Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Service Committee, signed by Stephen W. Hipskin, Chairman, Kevin L. York, Vice Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, and Scott M. Levin.
May I have a motion to put on the floor? Alderman Hipskin, second Alderman York. You want to introduce?
This is really a policy that really has been put into writing. I think we took a lot of past procedures and some written policy here and there and really put it to a entire citywide policy. It's flexible enough for emergency situations. If there is such as a storm or something like that, for employees to use the vehicles, and it really defines out what vehicle use is. It also stays within state statute of vehicle, such as the last part of it recites some of the state statutes, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you. Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to start out with giving a brief history of this referral to the Finance Committee. Myself, Alderman Pezza, and Alderman Gutenkopf made this referral, and it was made up of, or it not was, it is made up of three components. One of which Alderman Hipskin just touched on, which is the policy aspect of it. To my surprise, over my tenure, I found out that there is no policy in regards to take-home or temporary use vehicles for city employees. So I'm glad that the Finance Committee has conquered that aspect of it. The problem I have with this report is I think the committee needs to do additional work of the other two components that haven't been addressed. The other two components are specifically in the referral, and I won't go into both of them, but I will go into the one in regards to the justification of being able to have a take-home vehicle, and that is essentially giving a city employee a vehicle to use to go to and from work, as well as to and from work, as well as other destinations that would be work-related. Currently today, the city has, and as we go through the budget process, it's included in our budget, and it seems like we do somewhat of a hand wave because we never dive deep into vehicle allocation each year in the budget process. This referral was submitted in March of last year, 2012. At that time, the intent was to hopefully make a decision quickly to impact the budget process of that fiscal year. That did not occur, and we went through a second budget cycle just recently, or going through a second budget cycle, without the total resolution of each of these 3 points in the referral. I think it's essential for us as a community to identify the roles that should be allocated, not must, but should be, have the possibility of being allocated take-home vehicles. Over the time of this referral, from start to finish, being March of last year to now, I have followed up continuously with city staff in regards to when will the committee be discussing this. I have been told that it was delayed from a standpoint of we needed to survey the employees of the city of Elmhurst. As I waited patiently, have not seen those survey results. I have been told that the various unions and employees needed to be discussed with before moving forward with this referral. Really haven't seen much out of that as well. I can't support this because the report before us this evening does not conquer each of the three very important points in this referral that 3 out of the 14 aldermen have thought that it was important enough to be resolved. I encourage others to either ask the committee to take this back and finish the job that they have started and conquer the other 2 points, or not support it at all. The last statement I want to make is that a lot of the times it's told that please call us, please talk to the committee before getting to the council, before having these discussions on the dais. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I attended every single possible meeting when it didn't conflict with my committee meeting, and provided the same very feedback during those committee meetings as well. So this should not be a surprise to anybody that I have some displeasure of the current report, not including all 3 major bullet items in the initial referral. Thank you.
Any other comment? There being none, Clerk Spencer, do you call the roll?
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Pezza.
No.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
11 ayes, 3 nays.
11 ayes, 3 nays, and item Q passes. On to item R, Clerk Spencer, if you'd read the recommendation, please.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for front yard setback variation. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for the City Council approval. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, signed by Stephen Morley, Chair, Danny Polumsky, Vice Chair, and Norman Leader, Alderman, 2nd Ward.
A motion, Alderman Morley, second, Alderman Polumsky. Alderman Morley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have the same comment for both of these, and I'll look to the city attorney for some direction. Alderman Leader was not at the meeting in which these two variations were discussed, and his signature is on these reports inadvertently. So I don't know if it requires a motion. I know it has been the practice with the city attorney that if you do not attend the meeting, you don't necessarily sign the report. True. So I don't know if we can call it a Scrivener's error or a motion needs to be made. I did ask city staff to check with Alderman Leader. It's my understanding he does support both reports. I just don't want to fall outside of protocol when normally when someone attends a meeting, their name is not added as a signature.
Alderman Polumsky signed the report, though, and was there.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think with both of those signatures on the report, that the report would still be valid, and Alderman Leader's signature or non-signature really wouldn't have any.
Can it just be noted as a Scrivener's error without a
Sure.
motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's it.
Point of order.
Yes, Alderman Bram.
I thought our practice has been that as long as the additional signature does not change the outcome of the report, that it would be allowed. So I don't think, I appreciate Alderman Morley's comments and concerns of reflecting reality here, but I think that in this case, it is valid to have Alderman Leader's signature as long as he was contacted and gave authority for the signature.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the code to see whether or not, if you're not in attendance. I guess you might be right, Alderman, that in fact, he is. That if you're not, the only problem with not signing, I think Alderman Bram has refreshed me. I think you can in fact sign, and I think it says so in Chapter 2. But either way, I think well, either way, my opinion is that Alderman Leader signing or not, render the report is still there.
The report is valid. It's just a matter of whether the signature should be on it or not. Alderman Mulliner?
Chapter 2 doesn't address it, but it is correct. Alderman Bram is correct. It has no impact on the outcome, so it's appropriate that all three signatures are on it.
All right. I guess everyone seems to be in agreement. It's there, and we're going to proceed. Clerk, any other comments? Clerk Spencer, call the roll, please.
Morley.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Tipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gudenkauf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Item R passes. Item S, Clerk Spencer, if you would read the recommendation.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for front yard setback variation. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for the City Council approval. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, signed by Stephen Morley, Chair, Danny Polumsky, Vice Chair, and Norman Leader, Alderman, 2nd Ward.
Allegedly. Alderman Morley with the motion. Alderman Polumsky with the second. Alderman Morley.
No comment.
All right, so we're in the exact same situation as the one prior. Is any discussion on this item? All right, then Clerk Spencer, call the roll on item S.
Morley.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Tipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gudenkauf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, and that item passes. We're on to committee reports. Do you have a resolution? No. All right. Committee reports, sewer rate review, and Clerk Spencer, if you will read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare an amendment to the Municipal Code of Ordinances changing the sewer rates for the City of Elmhurst, effective for usage billed on or after May 15th, 2013, as follows. Residential rates per 1,000 gallons. For sewer, new rate, $5.34, current rate, $5.11. Bi-monthly minimum, new, $4.24, current, $4.06. Commercial rates per 1,000 gallons. Sewer, new, $5.34, current, $5.11. Bi-monthly minimum, new, $4.24, current, $4.06. Respectfully submitted, Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee, signed by Stephen W. Hipskin, Chairman, Kevin L. York, Vice Chairman, Mark A. Mulliner, and Scott M. Levin.
We have a motion to put this on the floor. Alderman Hipskin with a second by Alderman York. Alderman Hipskin.
Yes, this is keeping up with the increasing costs and increasing both water and sewer rates. Nobody wants to do it. We looked at many different ways to skin this cat, but the overall consensus was we need to raise the rates.
Alderman York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It took a lot of time on the committee's effort and city staff to put all this information together, and then we went back to city staff and said, get us some more information and let's think about things a little bit differently. The key thing that I think we need, that needs to be understood, this is a municipal utility fund, it's an enterprise fund. All the revenue to cover all the costs for providing sewer services to the entire city of Elmhurst is generated by these user fees. This isn't a tax, it's a user fee. They kind of feel the same sometimes, I understand that. But what we're trying to do here is cover our costs and make sure that when emergencies arise, there are resources there to deal with them. And from my perspective, that's where things got a bit dicey, was looking at the cash balances. During this next fiscal year, we're going to get a new study done on our rate structures. I think that's definitely timely at this point in time. It's been 10 years since it's been done. I'm sure there are some other best practices out there. So I think that's good. The thing that just amazed me was that when I sat back and looked at it, two projects in particular, totaling about $6 million, came on the radar in year 2012, and that was the sludge treatment facility, and that went from $600 initially to almost $1 million, and then the Southwest weather treatment improvements were for about $5.4 million that weren't even considered until 2013. So you can see that there's a lot of moving parts here, and this just contributes to the need for good cash balances and for us to pay attention to the user rates for these services. The other thing that was important to me is that when we were looking forward, and again, city staff went out a little bit further than they normally do, where we were looking at 5-year capital projections. We now have a 10-year capital projection, and the new thinking contemplates the issuance of some debt. We're not in this report exactly saying what the debt is going to be. It's something that we need to take a look at, but I felt like that the burden of all the improvements that are going to be done were being put on today's ratepayer, And I think that we needed to look, which we have, we need to look down the road and say, these are improvements that will last for 20 years or more, and we shouldn't be putting the entire burden of those improvements on today's ratepayer. So these are the key points that I think that this report addresses, that the one that we pulled from the agenda a couple weeks ago, so we go back and take a look at this, did not. So while I'm not happy to increase rates whatsoever, because I pay them too, we have no choice here if we want to keep improving and maintaining the sewer system here in Elmhurst and have it be a system that's functional today and down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple, or at least one question for the committee. The initial proposal on the table, at least that was being discussed in committee, was the 9% increase, and now this is cut in half to 4.5% increase, both of which I understand have the larger capital improvements, as Alderman York has stated. I think a couple weeks ago I voted against the Southwest, or maybe it was 4 weeks ago, Southwest Elmhurst Wet Weather Control Facility. Therefore, I still think that this is too high of an increase because I don't support one of the major capital improvements that's being proposed that this rate increase covers. But I'd like to understand from the committee is how did we get from a 9% to a 4.5%? Does that mean that we're extending our debt twice as long? And if it's twice as long, is that 10, 20 years compared to if it would have been 9%?
Alderman York.
There were a few things that we considered in here. Number one was the capital improvement fund is actually going to help fund a $600,000 land purchase that's adjacent to the current wastewater treatment program, and it's the general fund is the interest, right? The general fund is paying for half of the interest on the the Southwest Wet Weather Treatment Plant or facility. That's an acronym. So taking those two costs out of the mix definitely helped, and then looking out beyond out to the 10 years. When we first considered this, there was no additional debt issue considered. Now, you have to keep in mind that each year we're paying off over $1 million in debt, in current debt. So we're retiring all this debt, yet we were contemplating large capital expenditures without the issuance of any new debt. And for a year or so, I've been talking in the committee about we need to have some type of a policy as when we do projects like this is what's a good mix with cash and debt. And we're certainly not there yet, and I think it depends on what kind of debt there is outstanding, too. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables to take into account to come up with that perfect scenario. But in the meantime, contemplating some debt related to large capital expenditures in the future eases the rate increase required today to build the cash balances up to pay for those when they come due.
Alderman Braham.
Just last question. Has anything under the 4.5% rate adjustment been considered? And if so, why was that not proposed tonight?
You go for it.
When I went back and met with city staff, I asked them to do a couple things, and we came to the conclusion of what they did, and I asked them to look at a 3% rate increase. But the 3% rate increase, I think in year 8 or 9, got down to darn near zero in the cash balances. So it just didn't work. When we have a prescribed cash balance of somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million, getting down to $200,000 is not fiscally responsible.
Other comments or questions? Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the committee. I know this was a lot of work. You know, things don't come for free, and our sewer system is a very important part of what we do as a city here. And some of the major projects that are in here is the sludge storage pad modification. That's something the IEPA said we have to do, so we really don't have an option there. And then the work on the Southwest Elmhurst Wet Weather Facility, We've talked about that at length. That's going to provide a lot of benefit to the folks in that end of town from a flood mitigation standpoint, from a sanitary sewer backup. So nobody really wants their rates to go up, but when you have improvements and you have regulations, you have to do them. So thank you to the committee for that.
Well, you're welcome, and I'd like to thank the entire committee themselves because and city staff because we turned over a lot of stones. We looked at a number of different options here, and I think Alderman York had stated putting a policy together on how we're going to, with these long-term expenses, how we're going to put those expenses over the longer term as opposed to today's ratepayer is it's not something entirely new to Elmhurst, but I think by having a policy and understanding it, we deal with some big, the IEPA throws some big numbers at us. The sewage, the water, those are some big numbers. So looking at those numbers and looking how to maximize the use and the cost and the benefit for those is very important. So you are welcome.
All right, Alderman Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the committee meeting a few weeks ago when the initial rates were being discussed, and at that point it was 9%, and that obviously is pretty high. I don't think the council or the general public is comfortable with a rate for 1 year of that magnitude or many years out, which was the perspective. I think I appreciate the committee's work in being able to cut that in half by basically taking money out of other sources. I think we have a perfect storm here with IEPA mandated requirements, plus we had a lot of older equipment that happened to get scheduled within the same 2-3 year time slot. So we were looking at maybe $2 million a year for capital projects, and we have a 3-year period where we're up in the $7-8 million range, so that's a bit higher than normal. So I think we need to, I'm glad to see the 10-year perspective, and we want to try to avoid those major expenses all hitting at once as best we can, because we're seeing a big rate increase as a result. So 4.5% is a little high, but certainly we see the warrant for that. Thanks.
All right, any other comments or questions? There being none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll.
Gipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gutenkauf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Polumsky.
Aye.
That's 13 ayes, 1 nay.
13 ayes, 1 nay. The report passes, and I will say, Alderman York, I'll give you some special recognition for leading us in pulling back the report again to look at some more creative ways to undertake the rate adjustment process. Item 9, reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials. I have none this evening. City Manager?
Yes, I have 3 items. Thank you. The first one is this is the week that garbage cans will be swapped out by Allied. There were letters that were sent out to those who are getting a change in size for their garbage cans. But all garbage cans will be swapped out this week. So we ask, and as a reminder, if you have a 95, they will be exchanging the 95 gallons for the 65 cartons this week. So if you have a 95-gallon cart, please have it at the curb by 6 a.m., which is your regular pickup day, and do not remove the cart after it's been empty. Just leave it at the curb. It'll be a separate swap out, so the refuse truck will come by and empty it, and then a separate truck and cart will come by and swap them out. So it could be late in the day that it happens, but please leave it out there. If it's not out there, they won't be able to exchange it. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week is when that will happen, and the next utility bill will reflect the lower 65-gallon rate. So if you have any questions, certainly you can call City Hall, and we'll be happy to answer those. The next two items I have were recognitions for the City of Elmhurst. I'm happy to report that for the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Before you move on, Mr. Chair, I have...
Please, Alderman Morley.
So just to clarify, Mr. Grabowski, you call it a swap, but if a person doesn't have a toter right now, there's nothing to swap, correct?
That is correct.
In addition, if you do have a 95 and you want to keep it, you should pull it away from the curb maybe a little sooner than you normally do so that it does not get swapped.
That is correct. They will not take it if it's out there unless you're on the list that they've generated.
Okay.
There were survey cards that were sent out and mailed back to City Hall. Allied has that list. I'm sure there will be a few glitches as we go along. If that's the case, please call City Hall and we'll make sure that gets taken care of. But thank you for clarifying that. Moving on, for the 33rd year now, the City of Elmhurst was recognized as Tree City USA, which shows our commitment to the urban forest management. So I would like to thank the council for their commitment on that, and certainly the Public Works Department for all the efforts that they put in towards maintaining that. And secondly, the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, recognized the city and the finance department with a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, also known as the CAFR, which is our annual report to the state of how we handle our finances. I think it's a great sign of transparency for the city that it's recognized consistently for that, and so thank you to Marilyn and her staff for taking care of that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, City Manager. We're on to ordinances. Ordinance A, and Clerk Spencer, if you would read the resolution.
The ordinance.
The ordinance,
a budget and appropriation ordinance for the City of Elmhurst for the fiscal year beginning on May 1, 2013 and ending on December 31, May 2013.
All right, this is our budget. I have a motion. Alderman York, second with Alderman Morley. Discussion? Alderman York?
First of all, I think that a really special shout out needs to go to city staff at every department for taking the time and the patience to do an 8-month budget versus a 12-month budget. I know it seems like, geez, you should just be able to put 0.75 in front of everything and multiply it that way, but it just doesn't quite work out that way. So to all the department heads and to anybody who's involved in the budgeting process within each department, thank you and a job well done. Overall, from my perspective, you know, this is a very good budget. We're seeing increased revenues. We actually cut back the tax rate a little bit on the Elmhurst homeowner, and we've produced a budget here that increases city services and results in a projected $1.7 million contribution to the general fund. So I really can't think of a whole lot of negative things to say about this, only one positive. Job well done, and let's try and do better next year. Thank you.
Alderman York. All right, any Alderman Morley?
I just want to echo what Alderman York said. To thank city staff. A lot of people don't recognize that they had to try to figure out how to present an 8-month budget, and it's not something that they've been doing for 20 some odd years. So truly appreciate that, and also I see that this budget reflects a little bit of Mr. Grabowski getting a little more comfortable in his job. So I appreciate all the hard work from city staff. Thank you.
Alderman York?
One additional note, I think, you know, if you get a chance to go online and look at the budget, pay particular attention to page 99, which is a chart, and not everybody will see this in great detail. but the line that's above the shaded-in area is our general fund balance projection. You can see where it was about the time we took office. We've done a wonderful job of managing expenses and replenishing the general fund balances to a point where they could sustain the city for 3 months should everything go to heck in a handbasket. So I think this needs to be recognized, and again, thank you.
All right. With no other comments, then I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on this
York.
ordinance.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
15 ayes, 0 nays. The ordinance passes. Item B on the ordinance agenda. Clerk Spencer, please read the title.
An ordinance authorizing the acquisition of property through eminent domain or otherwise for the North York Street redevelopment plan and redevelopment project, 260 North York Street.
All right, can I have a motion to put this on the floor? Alderman Hipskin, second by Alderman Kennedy. Discussion? Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. I strongly believe in the right of the individual to own real property without the fear of government taking it away. I oppose the widespread use of the power of eminent domain and encourage the acquisition of property by purchase on the open market rather than by condemnation. I oppose the taking of private property other than for public use in extraordinary circumstances. Eminent domain takes away the rights of the seller and the rights of the taxpayers who are paying for this by putting it into the hands of attorneys and the courts. I believe we will be grossly overpaying for this property. This acquisition is not strictly for public benefit. This is not a taking for the dire need for a new street to get over a railroad crossing or to get to a hospital. This is largely for the benefit of a private development. This is a taking from one property owner to benefit another private developer. If this property were not in the TIF, we would need a supermajority to pass it. The city should not be in the business of real estate development, and this is a perfect example of why not. I do not support this.
Thank you. Comments? All right, I will say that so the public understands that we have been involved in a negotiation with the owner of this property for over a year. Negotiations will continue. This is a step that is taken as an additional mechanism to acquire the property. The project involved, of course, is the Hahn Street project, which has remained somewhat dormant for at least 3 years, I would say, right now. So we are trying to get that project moving forward, and I think that there's not a decision that eminent domain is going to proceed to a lawsuit. It's a step down the path, and discussions are likely to continue with the property owner. Since it was discussed in executive session because of negotiation, I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the aldermen are not speaking out about what was said there. I don't want you to think that it was something that is being voted on lightly or considered without sufficient discussion and information. Any other comments? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, can't support this ordinance. This is a shot across the bow. And I think that we have other tools we haven't exhausted in our attempt to reach a negotiation with the property owner. I also think we failed to recognize that developments have and can be created around property owners who don't want to sell. It's not as if we have no other options. And because of that, I can't support this. I can't support the taking of private property for a private development, and I will be voting against this ordinance. Thank you.
Other discussion? Very good. Clerk Spencer, call the roll on this ordinance, please.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
No.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
No.
Pezza.
No.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Let's go with no.
Polumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Swayed me.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Looks like 9 ayes and 5 nays.
9 ayes, 5 nays. Ordinance passes. Item 10C, Clerk Spencer, if you'll read the title.
An ordinance amending sections 36.09 entitled Classification of Licenses, 36.10 entitled Terms, Fees, and 36.11 entitled Limitation on Number of Licenses. All of Article Number 2 entitled Retail Licenses of Chapter 36 entitled Liquor of the Municipal Code of Ordinances of the City of Elmhurst, DuPage and Cook Counties, Illinois.
May I have a motion? Alderman Pezza with a motion. Seconding. Alderman Wagner, second. Discussion? Well,
let's go.
Let's call the roll.
Pezza.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The ordinance passes. Item 11 on the agenda, other business. Do any of the aldermen have other business to bring before the council this evening? Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I may have wanted to put this into announcements, but with the item on the consent agenda for the tree planting. 3 years ago, we did not plant any trees due to our fiscal issues. We spent the last 2 years making up that difference. So this year, and hopefully every year going forward, we're going to be planting as many trees as we will have lost the previous year. So I know that was something of concern with many residents, so just want to let everybody know we've made up the deficit and we're on even ground going forward.
Thank you. Any other business? All right. Item 12, we have a recognition of, it says outgoing council members, but since Treasurer Dyer is not here this evening, we have one special honoree. And I'm kind of new at this myself, Alderman Pezza, but I believe we have a rocking chair for you to sit in while we talk about you. So if you'd like to assume your new post, or you'd like to sit up here, whatever makes you most comfortable.
Do I say something first? Or?
You may do so if you like.
Sure.
It's up
It's
to
your
you.
night, you could say.
Say it and go sit in the chair.
Well, I've many thank yous, so sit tight. As I look back over my past 4 years of service, some days it felt like 40 years, and other days like today, it just seems like a few months. Over this time, through some challenges and some triumphs, I've experienced more than I would have imagined. I learned something new every day. I made many new friends that I may have otherwise never have had the opportunity to know. People often ask, what the heck does an alderman do? It's really not a simple answer, because I found myself working on some seemingly mundane issues like sidewalks and stop signs and budgets, to some more unexpected and exciting things like standing with a resident, with Alderman Gutenkopf, in their backyard at midnight in the pouring rain, watching a tree limb burn on a downed power line, waiting for help to arrive, or having the opportunity to proudly welcome home one of my residents from the war overseas, or working with the Boy Scouts to clean the veterans' graves for Memorial Day, and making pasta dinner at the firehouse. As many of you here know, being an alderman requires one to be a little bit of an expert and an advocate to the people who elected them. Contrary to popular belief, being an elected official does not put us in a position of power. Rather, it places us in the humble position of being a public servant. Challenging as this job can be, this is why I ran for office. I've always believed that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. I wanted to make a difference, to ask questions and get answers on the behalf of all my neighbors. While campaigning, I learned many saw City Hall with its doors closed and the welcome mat rolled up to the people who it was supposed to be serving. I listened to their comments and concerns, and thankfully I was chosen to be their voice. Some of my accomplishments that I am most proud of include saving the taxpayers over $200,000 a year by demanding the competitive bidding of our ambulance contract. I submitted a referral, along with Alderman Bram, to bid on a new garbage contract that had not gone out for bid in over 15 years, resulting in more savings. Also, with Alderman Bram, we proposed the TIF-4 referral, which gave the north end of Elmhurst the much-needed improvement and redevelopment opportunities it so deserves. Along with that came the IGA with the schools that made it a win-win situation for the whole town. And I thank my colleagues for their support in all of these issues. I also enjoyed working with both the CN and the UP Railroad and city staff to finally get a safe pedestrian crossing and sidewalks on West Avenue and a new sidewalk on Elm Park. It's a rewarding feeling to drive down the street and see our children have a safe place to walk to and from school. My biggest challenge was to bring the city business out of the back room and back into the public forum. Even though I am leaving the council, I will continue to be an advocate for the people, and I challenge this council and new Mayor-elect Morley to be the open and transparent officials you promised you would be in your campaigns. None of these achievements would have been possible without the support of our very dedicated city staff. Their efforts and dedication keep this town running more than one would realize. Most of all, I'd like to thank Public Works Director Mike Hughes, Kim and Corey, who handled the majority of my resident inquiries. Mike, you and your department always responded quickly in an efficient manner, which resulted in many happy constituents. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank Finance Director Gaston for her thorough and quick response and guidance every other week for the past 4 years as I questioned the accounts payable, and through the years I reached out for many other questions. Clerk Spencer and Deputy Clerk Vanderwall are a treasure to this town. Their expedient responses to our requests for information go above and beyond. City Hall would be lost without you. During my 4 years in office, I had the honor of serving on the Public Affairs and Safety Committee, which allowed me to work closely with our police and fire. Elmhurst is fortunate to have these honorable and professional people on their side. These are the meetings that I will miss. Thank you, Chairman Wagner. It was a pleasure to serve as your vice chair. Alderman Bram, great team. I still say we had the best committee. It would be remiss not to thank our Monday night regulars, or as they prefer not to be referred to as, our audience. Kathleen, Tamara, Claude, Mr. Rebeletti, I see you all out there. Thank you for being here at every city council meeting. It's good to know that there are people who are paying attention and watching how their elected officials are spending their money. I wish the room were filled like this every Monday night. And I want especially the young women, men and women of today, our future leaders, to know that your voice does matter. Thank you to the Citizen Advocacy Center for continuing to guide Elmhurst and help the residents in fighting and fending for their democracy. I find myself very fortunate to have served along with Alderman Gutenkopf, who shares my conviction to represent the people first and foremost. We were able to bounce ideas off one another, work together to create positive solutions. Sometimes we even agreed to disagree. So thank you for making my job easier. Thank you to the Elmhurst Press, the Elmhurst Patch, and the Tribune. Thank you for your balanced and fair reporting. A free and unbiased media is the basis of democracy, and much of which our public relies on for their political information. Last, I would like to thank my friends and my amazing family for their support, especially Dave, my husband, who was always there when I wanted to tackle the tough issues. Almost done. Many times as a minority or a single voice. Though I am leaving this position, I am thrilled that the First Ward elected Marty Deuter to carry the torch. I have the utmost confidence in her dedication, ability, and passion to continue to serve the people of Ward 1. So many of you have asked, what the heck am I going to do with all my spare time? In between selling real estate and planning my daughter's wedding, I have also taken on a new position with the Realtors Association on the Government Affairs Committee. I will be working closely with my colleagues and lobbyists, watching legislation that affects the real estate industry to protect the interest of realtors and property owners, hint, hint, in the matter of real estate and its use and taxation. I'm actually heading down to Springfield first thing tomorrow morning for Capitol Day to meet with our state representatives. In closing, I can only hope that I delivered on my promises, and I'm leaving this town in a bit of a better place than it was 4 years ago. Thank you again for your support, and I'm proud to say that I served as an Elmhurst alderman. Thank you.
Alderman Pezzi, you're in the minority. You're the only one sitting there, but I'd ask you to stand now and join me at the podium, please. Well, I'm sure a lot of the aldermen will want to make additional comments, but I will say that I've known Paula Pezza for a good number of years, and I've enjoyed working with you. We've had some good discussions, and I think that we both have shared the idea that it's perfectly acceptable not to have the same viewpoint on everything. And I think in our discussions, we both learned a lot from each other, and I think you know these are not hollow words. We've had some very good discussions, and I've plan on maintaining our friendship, and I know you will be doing some good things down in Springfield. And so I'd like to present this Distinguished Service Award on behalf of the City of Elmhurst to Paula Pezza in recognition of devoted service to the City of Elmhurst as First Ward Alderman 2009 through 2013. And I must say, I don't think that anyone could say there's a more zealous advocate for their residents than Paula Pezza and the time she puts in.
How about a picture with the family, too? Dave, come on. Hey, they're all here. Well, bring them all up. Everyone.
Immediate family or the whole...
No. Everybody.
Come up here, Paula.
Up here, Paula. Dave. Up here, everybody.
Kneel right next to her.
Oh, around the mic, Gabby. Come on.
Mike, they don't want to see you in the picture.
When Pete left. He's taller than that.
Are we in the picture
Family.
over here too?
No, you're fine.
Look at this. I know. She beat Pete. With the band.
Say cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Are you relaxed, Alderman Pezza? Relaxed? Very good. All right, Alderman Hipskin.
Alderman Pezza, you have more family here than DeCiani did. But seriously, thanks for your viewpoint. Thanks for all your time. Thanks, as all Mayor Pro Tem said, you're zealous and your advocacy for your not only the First Ward but all of Elmhurst. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and good luck. And have fun down in Springfield. They don't know what's coming down there. Good luck.
Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Pezza, Paula. I'm sad to see you leave. I think you did a great job. You were quite an advocate for the First Ward. Dynamo on the council. Very, very hardworking. And from a committee perspective, just unbelievable preparation for every committee. And a lot of times you were the wisdom of the day, so it was wonderful to have you in that committee. So I appreciate it, and I wish you all the success in the world down in Springfield. It's a little bit of a drive, but I think you'll be all right. Books on tape, I think, will make the time go by pretty well. But congratulations, and best of luck. Thank you.
Alderman Leader.
Paula and I first met in 1996 when my wife and I had purchased a home, a very venerable home, and we were on the house walk sponsored by the Elmhurst Historical Society. And Paula was then, as she is now, a passionate supporter of the Historical Museum, historical preservation, and adaptive reuse of historical structures. She was the driving force in a very successful fundraising effort by that society, which raised some $70,000, which was given to the city of Elmhurst as seed money to restore the one-room schoolhouse. She is clearly one of the heroes that saved that historical building, one of the last one-room schoolhouses in Illinois. Generations of school children will have the unique experience of being allowed a penetrating glimpse into Elmhurst's distant past due to the efforts of Paula and the other dedicated members of that society. In 2004, I was newly retired and not making that transition very well. Paul approached me to inquire if I would be interested in being a candidate for alderman. That was a revelation for me, as I had never considered such a thing. Paula earnestly convinced me to make the effort. She pointed out that what we do on this dais is of great importance to the citizens of our city. Local officials spend local dollars on local services. Paula educated me. She was my mentor. She guided my first campaign. And through her efforts, I was elected to my first term in 2005. I was recently elected to my third term, and I owe a great debt to Paula. Paula, the council member and citizen, understands that taxes are the price we pay for civilized society. She understands that we must spend money to provide for a high level of vital services. But she rightly demands that there must be a clear and present explanation of why the public is being asked to spend that money. Paula insists on a free form of discussion, which is indispensable to the healthy workings of democracy. Now, there are some who are sometimes annoyed at Paula's occasional political playfulness, but there is a bond of service to the community that binds people together in the political arena despite all of our infighting and disagreements. All of us on this dais have chosen to do what most have not, which is to go before the public through the electoral process, an often expensive and daunting odyssey, and ask for their support in our efforts to improve our communities. It is in this spirit that I speak tonight, and it is in this spirit that I thank Paula for her service, and I profoundly thank her for her friendship. Thank you.
Clerk Spencer.
Alderman Pezza. Paula, you are one of the most committed, passionate, enthusiastic public servants I have had the pleasure of working with. Your hard work and dedication is inspiring. So, good luck to you.
Alderman Kennedy.
Paula, congratulations on getting your Monday nights back and leaving me as the only IC grad left on the dais. So thank you for your hard work and service. You did a very good job, and best of luck in the future. Enjoy your family.
Alderman Mulliner.
Paula, I can truly say you're a good friend. You also have demonstrated what community service is all about and what an alderman is all about. It's about community service. It's not about what you do for yourself. And you've done a tremendous job for the community, not just the first ward. I've always told people that when you become an alderman, it's not just about your ward, but it's about the city. And you have really shown that as a tremendous example. Good luck in the future. We'll miss you.
Mayor-elect Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paula, often as I'm out, whether it's knocking on doors or just in conversation, someone will ask me about any alderman or any elected official that I might have a disagreement with. What do you think of that? And I said, well, I'll tell you this. Many people have their own opinion, but not many people do something about it. Some might say, put your money where your mouth is. I say to my kids, are you a thermostat or a thermometer when they're complaining? Don't tell me how hot it is. Do something about it. And I certainly think you fit the thermostat mold. So, and it's tough to sometimes go against the grain when there's 43,000 people that are listening. But appreciate your time and appreciate your service. Thank you.
Alderman Polumsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so touched by how many people have come out and all the family members and the great things that have been said. It's incredible. I also will be trying to push for an ordinance to have Alderman Leader speak last so he doesn't keep doing this to all of us. But I do want to say your hard work and your dedication to your constituents is admirable, as is your commitment to preserving the character of our town. You consistently fought for what you believed in and fearlessly stood by your principles. Thank you for your service, Alderman Pezza. I wish you all the best. Thanks.
Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Pezza, the last time I guess I will be calling you that. Paula, it's funny how time flies. When I first heard about yourself, it was actually more about your husband many years ago when I heard about the Pezzas. Years ago, David was the first Pezza that I met and became familiar with. I am happy to say that over the years, no offense, Dave, I actually know you better than your husband. You have grown to be a good friend of mine. We have had countless conversations of various issues in the city, some of which we made referrals to the full city council for. Your passion is incredible, not only as others have stated for your ward, but for the full city. It is outdone by no one, at least in my tenure. I am proud to be your friend. I am proud to have served up here with you. I look forward to our continued friendship. It is an honor of mine to call you my friend. I wish you the best of luck going forward, and I'm sure no matter what you do, you'll be successful at. And the last thing I'll say is I'm sure glad we had city business between when your family spoke and when I had to speak. So good luck to you.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paula, congratulations on your 4 years of service. I respect everybody on this dais. It's not easy being an alderman, and I think we all understand that. And anybody that's willing to put their name in the hat is to be respected. I certainly respect you. When I think of the name Paula Pezza, I think of two words: passionate and for the people. And that's one thing I could always count on for you is that you were always well reasoned, you were always well researched, and you were going to be passionate. So I wish you continued success with whatever you do, and thank you again.
Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Been on council for 2 years, and it's been quick. And when I first came on board, I had several of the sitting aldermen reach out to me. Paula was the first, though, and that's the type of person. She obviously is very engaging and is able to connect with her constituents, with those on council, other politicians elsewhere, and the community in general. I found her to be very lively on council, and we're going to miss that. I don't think it will be as fun without you. I think you're very tenacious. You and your intentions are always pure and above board and just sincere. So, as Alderman or Mayor Levin mentioned, sometimes you may not see eye to eye on some issues, but your intentions were always for the people of Elmhurst and for the people you represented, and you represented them well. I think you'll do very well in your new role, and it's always nice to move on to something new and continue to learn. And as you mentioned, you learn something new every day, and I think you'll do extremely well, and I wish you all the best. Thanks.
Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. Paul, you and I came on council together, and I'll never forget the evening that we got together, all the newly elected officials, and there was no business discussed because we hadn't done any business yet. But we met at my house, and you and I got to spend a half an hour together alone because everybody else was fashionably late or something like that. I got an insight to who you are and to what you believe in and to what you're going to do to stand up for what you believe in. And I commend you for your 4 years of service. You've been a great alderman, as has been pointed out before, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future. Thank you.
I think first word is last, isn't it? Go ahead, Alderman Gutenkopf.
Well, we're only last because I got the city clerk to switch the order of voting around. And Alderman Leader stole several of my points. Paula, it's been my great honor and privilege to have served with you for the past 4 years. And for roughly 15 years to have called you my friend. You invited me to join the Elmhurst Historical Society Board, and it was there, I think, we forged some common bonds of respect for historic preservation and a strong sense of duty to Elmhurst. And in that time, you represented Elmhurst on the Chicago Suburban Alliance, something I think most aldermen don't know. It's a network of local officials and residents who care about historic preservation. And the participants come from all over Chicagoland and includes village and city staff and commissioners and historic preservation commissioners and elected officials. It's a wonderful group of people that are dedicated to improving their communities, and you are a perfect fit for that. You ran for mayor 8 years ago, and I think you're only the second woman, as far as I know, in Elmhurst to have done so. It was an amazing race, and you campaigned tirelessly throughout our community. Your focus on Elmhurst's core values resonated with many residents, and I think helped win your aldermanic seat 4 years ago. Over those past 4 years, you've worked harder than any alderman I know. I couldn't have asked for a more dedicated aldermanic partner to share and improve ward communications with residents and businesses. I think you spent every weekend doing much more than just reading your council packet. You dug into content, and you made sure that not only you understood the issues, but that you could explain it to the people that it impacted. You raised awareness of many topics, and you always followed through with integrity and taxpayers' interests at the top of your mind. Your dedication to local government transparency and service is outstanding. Paula, on behalf of the First Ward and the entire city of Elmhurst, thank you for your service over the past 4 years.
All spoken who desire to speak this evening. Well, Paula, for the public who would not know it, this rocking chair is a gift from the city of Elmhurst to you to also serve as a symbol of thanks for your service. I don't think you'll be using it too much just yet, but it'll be a nice thing to keep around. More can be said except thank you so much. And I know you want to make a final motion. Alderman President?
Mayor Levin, if I may, I think Alderman Pezza was going to make a motion to adjourn.
I think she was.
Well, if I might, I don't know if we've ever had an interim mayor, so I asked City Manager Grabowski, when can we compliment Scott on what a fantastic job he's done? And he thought it would be appropriate after Paula Pez's conversation if we could say a few words. And with your indulgence, I'd like to do so.
You withdrawing your motion, Alderman? All right.
Thank you. Mayor Levin, I just want to thank you for all of your hard work and dedication over the past 4 months. Truly, at a moment's notice, you stepped up and did 2 jobs. I know we're against that for the most part around here, but with that having been said, quite frankly, you handled the job like someone who's been doing it 10 years. In a short 4 months, you delivered a terrific State of the City address. You chaired an election challenge. And finally, you helped us navigate an AG issue with, quite frankly, the best speech I've ever heard on this dais. I truly thank you for your guidance in that matter. In a very short amount of time, you have created some very big shoes to fill. I'm glad you're not going anywhere, and I look forward to serving with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor-elect Morley. I think we're ready now. Alderman Pezza. Is it the motion? All right. Second? Diane, Alderman Gutenkopf, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.